yeah. Why don't you make my funk the P-Funk? All right, what do we got here? Yeah, I accidentally linked this stream to the wrong channel, so shout outs to Pound 8chan or Pound 8chan. It's a this is a non-troll stream where we're actually editing a novel. Believe it or not, we're on page 300 of 786. So Spathywa says, crazy dream. Facebook hired biochemists to develop drugs for their employees. Everybody does a mandatory Myers-Briggs quiz and is prescribed the pills for their personality type. The end result, a uniform employee personality throughout the org, Scientology plus plus. And he thinks that research into NAD is what gave him this dream. I kind of like the sound of that. It's like a Brave New World, but plus Facebook or whatever there. I'm digging it. So we're at day number... God damn it. All right, hold up. It's going to drive me crazy the whole stream if I don't do this. There we go. Yeah, just when I thought I had gotten through a morning without forgetting any of it. I've done this for like 30 days straight. I should have like a fucking checklist or something of all the things that I'm supposed to do at the beginning of this. You'd be surprised at how procedural a lot of even running this tiny little live stream is. Like when I like, let's say that I sit down here, I've got to turn on our primary camera. Then I've got to turn on channel 4 on the mixer, which is this microphone that you hear right there. I've got to turn down the recording booth speakers. I've got to turn on the light switch number 8. I have to start the stream. I have to link the stream in a bunch of different channels. I have to waddle my ass over here. I have to reset the iPad to get restream chat. I mean, it's like, you know, thank God I'm not trying to fly a fucking airplane over here, because that sounds pretty simple still. But every morning I manage to fuck up some part of it. But yeah, shout out to everybody coming through early in the morning. I'm excited to edit this novel right here. So today we're trying out a new farm of cold brew. This is Secret Squirrel. See, I should have like a remote where I can zoom the fuck in on this guy. Anyhow, this is Secret Squirrel Coffee. Oh, I do have a remote where I could zoom in if I really wanted to. Oh, let's not get all crazy with it here, because I just constantly be doing like zoom in to like the bridge of my nose type shit. I didn't know you get fucking potassium from coffee. The hell they have in this? But yeah, this is from Squirrel Brewery. Apparently, power your passion. This drink may cause you to break the rules and write your own. Now, why the fuck would I need a thing of coffee telling me that? That's ridiculous. But apparently, this is from Anaheim, California, and it must be good because there's fucking nothing else to do in Anaheim, California, except drugs and apparently brew cold brew. So it smells good. Well, I'm glad that it's not really good, because it was difficult to find this coffee, and it would have been hard to find more. It's just... there's nothing particularly special about this cold brew. Let's put it that way. It's definitely one of the lower ranked of these many coffees that we've had so far. Secret Squirrel is a pretty good name for a gay bar. I don't know, it kind of gives me like a whiff of Richard Gere, you know, and all those poor hamsters gnawing their way to like through the lining of his colon. I hope that shit isn't real. It just strikes me as something that's didn't actually fucking happen. Okay, so for those of you who have never tuned in before, because I see some new faces in the feed, this is a story about a young woman who becomes super fucking depressed after the death of her father. Kids are bullying her, and instead of scooting up her school, instead of shooting up her school, she decides to drown herself in a river. But when she's attempting to hop into this river, a meteorite crashes down into a sandbar, and of course knocks her right into the river. And when she like swims her way out of there and investigates this meteorite in the Sandbar. God, it's real early for me. Normally I'm up at about 5 o'clock, but I just went to bed at like 8, so this is all I can sleep. So anyhow, when she investigates this motherfucker, she finds that the meteorite is no meteorite at all. It's actually an alien probe that she winds up keeping in her pocket because this is like a dumb 16-year-old girl who is severely depressed, and really she does not care what happens to her. So at this point in the story, she's starting to stage a mild comeback, but we're going to go through a chapter today, which is where you meet her guitar instructor, a wizened old blues man named Mr. Ezekiel Mathis. And so the way that this works out is I'm going to be reading through each line of text. And then if you have any comments or anything, feel free to throw them in. Like if I miss a comma, insert a bunch of swastikas or something. Like we want to cut those errors out before we try to sell this to an agent or a publishing house or what have you. So, without further ado, let's try and get down to it. This is an early start for us, so we can either get like a lot more writing done, or I don't know what we're going to make of it. Let me see. What other news is going on? I went out and finally bought, for the first time in my life, like a real winter jacket yesterday. And it was, I used the money from my other stream to buy it, and then told myself we will use that jacket to stream live on the streets of New York City. So that should be fun. Yeah, it's been too long since I've been streaming. So I have decent gloves that are potentially can do this. I think we can make a go of it. But Pompous Virtue Troll. Wow, look at somebody who has named themselves Octokike in the other chat. Really just laying it to Dwayne there. He just wants to talk about Jesus. Why do you guys got to be so mean? I watched, I guess yesterday I watched that, the infamous Ricky Gervais, or however you say that guy's dumb name. I watched that on whatever, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, not too much going on yesterday. Like went into Manhattan, went to bed early, cooked up a steak, the end, and worked. That's pretty much it. Ah, Lord have mercy on me. All right. Oh, shit. Hold on. I actually, one thing that I definitely forgot to do is link this in the topic. What do we have here? I am Turkish, speak little English. I can't go because everyone in the stream is very nice to me. Yeah, like I've never been to Turkey, but I go to Amsterdam a bunch, and there are just a ton of Turkish people there. Like every time you go for shawarma or whatever, it's Google people. So I guess the words that you see on the screen will be pretty close to proper English. Like this is as close as we can get to, before I go, let me see what the top rap of 2019 was. Let me see. Yeah, this is the writing that you see on the screen is generally pretty proper English. The way that I speak is generally not so proper in the English. Let me see the results of our best FNet rap. Oh, shout out to Frack beat White Tupac. That's a shame. Well, congratulations to Vapor and Eraser. I was really pulling for White Tupac there. I thought it was great. Okay, but enough of all that. Let's get down to it without further ado, the editing. So generally after we write a chapter, we go ahead and read through it again because we find all kinds of stuff we've missed in our first pass. So really, we're doing like a couple passes in this one. We do the editing line by line, and then we do a read through and just try to catch anything else that we, and this one seems pretty good for me. The read through is like a little bit more narration practice for me, and I apologize for being congested, but you know, it's cold and flu season up here. There's just not a lot that I can do about it. Believe me, if I could, I would. Well, I almost don't want to drink the rest of this. That's pretty bad. Yeah, like I almost like I want to write these guys and be like, what are you doing with your coffee? And I love coffee, so you gotta be really, really pretty mediocre for me. It's just not. It's not like a strong flavor. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like watered down, and it's not something you want with your cold brew. You want it to be boisting with flavor. So let's get to it. Gravid by Zach ZYZ. Chapter 45. Freya tried to communicate telepathically with the Starball during the cab ride home, but it would not respond. When she got home, she tried tapping the orb in Morse and setting her phone beside it with a blank note open, but nothing got a reaction. She wondered if the Starball could understand language at all, or if it only reacted to emotion. She tried making herself, so here, Freya wondered if the Starball could understand language at all, or if it only reacted to emotion. She tried making herself feel angry and happy, but she only felt like a loon for making faces at a marble. After she failed to get through, Freya fried 3 eggs, drizzled green El Yucateco on top, and devoured them. After not eating anything all day, she could have cooked a whole dozen, but she hoped to go for a run after guitar practice. Her appetite was back in a big way. It was almost time for her lesson, and she brought the Ovation into the living room and tuned it. She put her foot up on the coffee table as she warmed up her fingers. Lassa would have gone insane, but she wasn't here. She strummed a few chords, looking for whatever she'd felt this morning and trying to sort out what was her and what was the Starball. She didn't find it. Yeah, so it looks so kind of difficult to get like the balance between she's and Freya's, and it's really, this is not something where there's like an established rule for it or anything like that. It's just I'm just going by feel. I think from time to time it's helpful to kick the name in there, and I may just be doing it way too much. Like there may be way too many Freyas and not enough she's, or vice versa. And really, like a big part of why my editing is not sufficient and why we need a professional is you need somebody who really has a grasp on what's industry standard and what's going to sound the best for everybody. So Mr. Mathis arrived, dressed in black as always. He carried his guitar case inside. With halting steps. Freya could tell his arthritis was acting up again, but she knew better than to try and carry his case for him. Randall had done that once, and Mr. Mathis had nearly bitten his head off. "We doing our thing in here, Miss Freya?" Sorry. "We doing our thing out here, Miss Freya?" he asked, uncertainty in his eyes as he glanced around. Ancient and ornery as Mr. Mathis was, he was still wary of Lassa's wrath. "She's away. Let's work here. How are you, Mr. Mathis?" "Same as it ever was," he said, the words as rehearsed as any song he knew. Every lesson she asked him the same thing, and the reply never changed. He settled onto the leather armchair by the couch, shifting back and forth, and then nodding in approval at the new arrangement. He bent and opened the case that was plastered in so many layers of stickers she thought there might not even... so this should be a guitar case. He bent and opened the guitar case. It was plastered in so many layers of stickers, Freya thought there might not even be any leather left under him. Oh. It's hard out here for a player. It was plastered in so many layers of stickers, Freya thought there might not be even... He bent and opened the guitar case. It was plastered in so many layers of stickers, Freya thought there might not be any leather left under them. The latest additions were a string of Devon's Blues barbecue locations from the Midwest. They were oval shaped. Okay, so this is a real location of barbecue joints in the Midwest, and they do that. Each one of their stickers is like a different round logo. Yeah, this is like a very specific detail about the guy's guitar case. And I'm not 100% that my line about like there's so many stickers stuck to it, you don't even know if there's any leather left under that. But I like the idea. I like from time to time we'll have like a very specific description about something that has emotional resonance with one of the characters, right? Like very important to Mr. Mathis is his guitar case. Shut the fuck up, Siri. See, that's when I'm supposed to be waking up, but I just went ahead and woke up at like 4 a.m. instead. Like took out the trash and did my thing, and here we are. And I should, okay, so Califrey has homework. I have to go. Bye-bye. See you later, Califrey. Thank you for jumping into this chat. Let me know if you are trying to learn English in earnest, because I have been myself studying English grammar for the past few days, and I can tell you a few of the apps I'm using. Just going through English grammar, now I understand why this is such a difficult language for people to use, because there's so many stupid rules and so many things that just don't make sense. That's just the way that we do it. And there are gerunds and comparative adjectives and superlative comparative adjectives, and you would not believe how much bullshit is running under the hood of language, and how much like I just take for granted without ever thinking about what's going on in the language. So yeah, and I'm just like taking this one day of diving into it, and I still don't remember what the fuck a gerund is. I think it's has something under the word with the verb to. Oh, and I couldn't fix my word count. There's something wrong with that particular document where it can't get a word count. Oh yeah. So a gerund is where a verb becomes a noun by the addition of the ing, which is where do you mind my asking? Like so, he was ready for another bout of fucking. Where yeah, like the verb action becomes a noun through the addition of ing. So that's a little bit better. In fact, there's a lot of very detailed description in this guy. So, Mr. Mathis removed his guitar case from the Mr. Mathis removed his guitar from the case as delicately as if it were made of glass. It was a piano black teardrop D'Angelico New Yorker with gold accents, and he tuned it the same way he'd taught her, first by ear. Then he checked each string with the battered Korg chromatic tuner, nodding when everything was perfect. He ran his fingers along the fretboard and warmed up, his eyes narrowing from arthritic pain. He strummed 4 C chords and tilted his head, listening to the sound decay in the high ceilings of the living room. Okay, so he wouldn't listen to these sounds. He would listen to the sound, because like he's strumming chords, right, which is more of a sound than a collection of individual sounds. But 2, when you get to the point of sound actually decaying and like reverberations coming back to you, I think that's where we make the leap from sounds plural to sound singular. He strummed 4 C chords. I think C should be capital there. Oh no, I researched that. It should actually be there. Listening to the notes decay. Yeah, well, they're not notes. You know, they're chords. He strummed 4 C chords and tilted his head, listening to the sound decay in the high ceilings of the living room. Oh, that's why. So, ceilings, we've pluralized. Yeah. So, ceilings indicates that, like, indeed, like, visualizing what the ceiling looks like here, probably like a bunch of different planes there, but it's just too complicated to have high ceilings. Someone's like, what? Why do they have more than one? You know. So let's cut out that out. Room for confusion. Sounds better in here, he said, nodding to her room. The acoustics are improved, but how about the plan? What do you got for me? Yeah, it's better. Yeah, singular ceiling. Even though like a spot that like is like technically correct in my visualization of what that room would look like, um, doesn't matter. Like reader comprehension trumps everything. What do you got? Okay, sounds better in here, he said. The acoustics are improved, but how about the plan? What have you got for me? Freya started playing, and after a moment he nodded, acknowledging the joke. She was playing Stormy Monday. So does that even track? Yeah. Freya started playing Stormy Monday, and after a moment he nodded, acknowledging the little joke. Mm-hmm. You know something I don't about the weather? He asked, raising his eyes suspiciously to the triangular window facing the east. Don't smile. You flubbed twice in a row on that solo. The whole thing's too fast. Settle down. Play it more like this. If his fingers ached, Freya couldn't hear it. Mr. Mathis played... Ooh, that looks so wrong, right? Um, so this is like a difficult punctuation decision right here because, like, absolutely, when you say play it more like this, there's a colon, right? There always is a colon when you're like, do it like this, and then the sentence continues. But yeah, and there has to be a period to end the sentence. It just looks so wrong to me, seeing that like weird triangular structure. And we could just change the sentence to be something else, but yeah, I'm gonna take that period out. It looks so fucking wrong to me. If his fingers ached, Freya couldn't hear it. Mr. Mathis played the solo perfectly, then slowed down the pace on the. Okay, but listen to me stumbling. Mr. Mathis played the solo perfectly, then slowed down the pace on the part she'd struggled with and played it again. She tried once more and made the same mistake. Fingers here, like this. Slower. You got all the time in the world. Easy to make that mistake. Try again. God, I wish I could just talk with my southern accent all the time. But Lord, the looks I would get. It's ridiculous. I probably don't even sound legitimate at this point. Somebody from the South would be like, what are you doing, young man? Get the fuck out of here with your fake accent. Cocksucker. But I'm not going back to the South to power the accent back up. No way, no how. I'll tell you what, like about, what do we got? Let me show you. Nah, yeah. We're not changing it. I do like the language there, and that's one where we can slough it off to future editor, which it may be me. I should just compile a bunch of clips of me saying like, yeah, the future editor is going to deal with this, and then it just turns out to be me again. I have to edit it myself because I don't have like the $7,000. And yeah, that's why we have to build this into a success, just so editor number 2 is not yours truly, because what a calamity that would be. We'll meet. The coffee is not getting better halfway through the bottle. And Just gotta be careful not to drink a whole bunch more coffee to get the taste out of my mouth, and then all day just be like so strung out and wired. Mm-hmm. It took four try. It took 4 tries to nail the solo, but she got it. Freya felt herself loosening up through the last play. Freya felt herself loosening through the last play. Uh, okay, so I don't like letting the notes just ring out. Not letting her hands get ahead of her. Mr. Mathis tilted his head, listening. Mr. Mathis tilted his head as he listened and nodded when she got it right. That's right. What else you got for me? He asked. And she strummed through a few more of the songs they'd worked on. She was playing well, but still not quite like she had that morning. Freya was playing well. Freya was playing well, but still not quite like she had this morning. That morning. Oh, so yeah, like an interesting thing that came up in English, the distinction between this and that has to do with the distance of the relative object from the speaker, right? This means something that is close at hand, like you should be able to touch something where you say this. That means something more distant from the speaker. I had no idea. Hey, Jira. Yeah, welcome back, man. Yeah, I had no idea that was the case. Just like as I'm reading through the grammar of the language that I've been like trying to professionally write in for 20 years, many surprises for young ZYZ out there. It's just ridiculous. But yeah, like I couldn't remember what a conjunction was. By the way, it's and or. Just so many spots, and I've forgotten most of it. But I've just on the subway ride, I'm just like thumbing through this grammar app on my phone, trying to let as much of it sink in as possible. And some of it I think will be like a little bit more useful. I'm doing more of the recognizing the parts of speech in any particular language and thinking like a little bit more about the mechanics running under the hood. But yeah, mainly we're just doing that for correctness sake. Like one thing that had bothered me in early chapters was whether or not we capitalize the in the starball or the starball. And it turns out that you only capitalize the if it's a proper title, and there's no way that the starball can have a proper title. However, in the starball chapters, you'll see that we should be capitalizing the in the governor, because the governor is, we want to lend some authority to his title through the selection of that. And for the vast majority of readers, that's like a distinction that they're not going to notice. Like it's not going to leap out at somebody like, why is this T capitalized in the? But all these things do add up on a subliminal level, right? They're just like there are many little things where, you know, you're going to read that 100 times if you read this whole book, and it just sort of adds up over time, and the distinction is manifest, and it will help the reader to understand that the governor has a lot of authority in the relationship with the starball. One thing that dawns on me as we're talking about it is I realize I have no idea what the starball's name for itself is. I don't think it ever gives itself a name in the story. And maybe he just thinks of himself as I. I don't know if there's even a pronoun attached with the starball, which is like a so far genderless. So yeah, an interesting thing to think about when we're working on these chapters. Mm. Freya was playing well, but still not quite like she had that morning. Freya was playing well, but she still wasn't quite reaching the place she had that morning. She wondered if she'd only dreamed it. So yeah, like I want to tell you in your writing, definitely you will reach pinnacles where you absolutely are in like this total zen state where you're just dishing it out and you feel like you have unlimited creative energy and power to enact whatever you want. And it's an amazing experience. And it doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen every week or every month or even every year. But when it's there, oh my God. Um, so yeah, while I'm not a guitar player, a lot of this is drawn from my own experiences of just feeling high as fuck while I'm writing on that creative energy. The hour was almost up when Freya tried playing Wild Horses as a last shot to recapture the feeling. She couldn't quite find it. She couldn't quite reach it. Uh, she couldn't quite find it. And as she, wait, do we use quite like a couple of times? No, okay. That's where our quite. She couldn't quite find it. And as she strove, she fumbled the notes. And as she strove, she fumbled the notes. She tried to go on, but Mr. Mathis held up a hand to stop her. Getting ahead of yourself. You're forcing it. Try something you practice more. Song needs a 12-string anyhow. Let me try one more time, she asked, and again there was that tilt of his head, but he nodded. It's your hour, he said. Mr. Mathis took a deep breath. Actually. Freya took a deep breath and shut her eyes, then opened them again. Mr. Mathis was watching her closely, a tired look in his ancient brown eyes. He didn't really expect that much from her, and she wanted to surprise him. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. Yeah, Jira, like, so it's been a hot second you've been in this chat there. What's your, like, creative pursuit, if any? I would assume that it's arranging action figures and then acting out battles between them and doing all the voices and then getting discovered by your mother as you're doing it. And she just doesn't say anything, just kind of slowly shakes her head and puts her palm on her forehead and walks out the door to think about what she has wrought. But that's just my mental picture. It might be that you're like a very accomplished sousaphonist, or that you have some other amazing creative pursuit. I don't know why I'm being mean for no reason to Jira, who has just been like a real G throughout this entire process. But we'll have to find out there. Hopefully he stepped away and didn't hear any of that. God, Dwayne is wilding out in the chat, man. He didn't really expect that much from Freya, and she wanted to surprise him. He didn't really expect that much from her, and she wanted to surprise him. Freya began to play, trying to focus on nothing but the music. With each note, more of the effort slipped away until she found herself dancing a step ahead of everything, hitting every note just right. All the suffering of the day bled out of the guitar, and the song was alive on the air, slow and mournful. When she finished the song, when she finished playing the song, she still felt it. When she finished playing the song, she still felt it humming in her hands. She looked up at Mr. Mathis, wondering if he would just nod and say, "That's right," the way he always did. But instead, he grinned at her with a smile full of gaps and snags. He brought his hands together, 3 soft claps, too light to hurt. "I've been waiting 6 years to hear that," he said. "That right there, that's what all the practice is for. You keep it up and you'll get there, time and time again." She didn't spoil his words with her own. She just beamed, and there was no awkwardness between them. They had an understanding. At last he looked at his gold watch and nodded. "I got something for you," he said, delicately returning his guitar to its case. From his breast pocket, he took out 2 pale blue tickets and held them out for her. Joe Bonamassa was playing at Swallow Hall in Bangor on Friday night. Ezekiel Miracle Mathis was the opening act. When that man was 12 years old, he opened for B.B. King. Now I'm 66 and about to open for him. Time don't make no sense, Mr. Mathis complained, but he was still smiling a bit. "Oh, wow. Thank you," she said, clutching the tickets. "I'll be there." "Those are good seats, too. Bring your mama if you want to. I can't speak for Joe, but I'm going to put on a show." Mr. Mathis had a sly little grin, but when he lifted his case, he winced it away. He made his slow way out the door and shut it behind him. She tucked the tickets into her wallet and brushed up against the starball and brushed them. She tucked the tickets into her wallet and brushed her fingers against the starball in her pocket. Playing better. So that's a real chapter right there. Very happy with the introduction of Mr. Mathis, who is kind of like a terrifying figure earlier in the story, or at least a frightening figure. And then, oh God, who is this character in the thing? And then later he becomes like a little bit more interesting and nuanced. And we do get to see like a little bit of his perspective. I don't think he's just a caricature in this story. But yeah, we'll see. I like the part where he has to give her lessons because he lost like a $500 game of 9-ball to Randall, because Randall just like sinks the 9 on break. And he's mad about it for like 2 years. Oh, I love little details, man. Little details are just everything in this. Okay, so this is chapter 46. So we made some notes about how does Freya anthropomorphize the Starball. We're really like thinking a little bit more deeply about that Starball relationship. And I think it's something that in early drafts of this, we've not given it quite the airtime that it really might require. So that's kind of interesting. Why? I didn't realize that Dwayne kept journals of his experience at Teen Challenge. Wild. So Freya checked her phone after the lesson, but there was no response from Dan. She was so excited. She'd been so excited when she got the tickets. She'd been so excited when she got the tickets. But as she thought about it, she realized she didn't have anyone to take. Who knew if Lasso was even going to be home by then? Okay, so we need to break that paragraph there. But as she thought about it, she realized she didn't have anyone to take. She had no idea if Lassa would be back by then, or if she would ever come home at all. She didn't know Dan well enough to invite him to a concert. She tried to picture inviting Radomir. He'd stood up for her after all, but even thinking about it felt awkward. The more Freya considered it, the more certain she became that there would be an empty seat next to her, and her +1 would be a rock from outer space. She spent almost an hour trying to untangle everything she'd missed in trigonometry, working back through the lessons and searching online when she couldn't figure things out. Freya was further behind than she'd thought, but maybe she could. Freya was further behind than she'd thought, but maybe she could. Wow, was there a catch in my voice there? Freya was further behind than she'd thought, but maybe she could catch up if she didn't slip back into the pit. Her fingers dipped back into her pocket for assurance. The starball wouldn't let that happen. She struggled with the textbook until she felt like she wasn't making progress any longer, and then it was time to run. Let me see. That sentence is too... Mm-hmm. Let's try... It's a sample trigonometry syllabus. Maybe I should start doing Khan Academy. Let's see. Sinusoidal. Sinusoidal modals. Let's see. I was away. What's going on with science research? Oh yeah, I just wanted to throw in a little specificity. Sinusoidal models and modals and... I actually want to use morass. She ventured on until her mind was a morass of sinusoidal models and trigonometric... Oh, this is a terrible sentence. Significantly worse than what we had before. Yes. Midway through a section on sinusoidal models, she realized she was just reading, not actually learning. She'd hit her limit for the night, and it was time to run. Yeah, I have no idea what a sinusoidal modal is. Let's find out. A sinusoidal modal can fit using nonlinear least squares. To obtain a good fit, nonlinear least squares routine may require good starting values for the constant, the amplitude, and the... What the fuck is that? Appropriate... Wow. Where C is constant, defining a mean level or an amplitude for the sign. Wow, what is this? Okay, I don't have the I feel like she does right now. Actually, hold on. I wonder if Khan Academy has a... I don't want to join this fucking thing. English grammar. That's what I want. Grammar. Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, so they're like mastery points, parts of speech. I wonder if they have an app. Let me take a look. So modals are a statistics topic. It also looks like when you're looking at sinusoidal modals, like maybe that's something that you can do with maybe like audio waves or audio waves. But yeah, maybe that's something that would come up in audio type shit. Just based on like the whole sine thing. Maybe you could put like a sick echo on your modal. I don't know. Yeah, just really wholly ignorant of math. And I think, so now that I'm not playing League of Legends essentially unpaid professionally, I'm finding that I need more things to like fill the time where that used to be. Oh yeah, let me see. Khan Academy. You can learn anything. Oh, cool. So there is like a phone app for this motherfucker. All right, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to try their grammar course. Because like I bought an app yesterday, but it's not ideal, and their testing is just terrible. Like I don't, it wasn't expensive or anything. It was like $3, and I got some use out of it. But yeah, let me try this old Khan Academy on the subway ride today, because I was talking about wanting to return to some kind of college level instruction. And it's obviously not going to happen while I'm editing 20 hours a week. So this could be like a good way to pick up a little bit in my subway rides and so forth. She'd hit her limit for the night. It was time to run. Freya went into the garage and took Randall's bike down from the wall. Freya Atreides, God Emperor of Dune. I think we spelled Atreides wrong. Yeah, so it's an E. Atreides. Freya Atreides, God Emperor of Dune. She announced to the empty garage. Freya Atreides, God Emperor of Dune, she announced to the garage, feeling prescient for pumping up the tires. I'm glad we're getting a laugh from Spathy there, because that feels tremendously geeky to put in there. All right, hopefully that's a laugh with and not at us. But she announced to the garage, feeling prescient for pumping up Randall's tires. Freya went into the garage and took Randall's bike down off the wall. So she let's work on this. I know that this is a bad paragraph, and I'm not going to let it slip by on my watch. She spent almost an hour trying to untangle everything she'd missed in trigonometry, working back through the lessons and searching online when she couldn't figure things out. Freya was further behind than she'd thought, but maybe she could catch up if she didn't slip back into the pit. Her fingers dipped back into the pocket. So we got into and into there, and it juts. Her fingers dipped inside her pocket for assurance. The starball wouldn't let that happen. Midway through a section on sinusoidal modals, she realized she was just reading, not actually learning. She'd hit her limit for the night, and it was time to run. Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, we got to get the pacing of that part right. Mm-hmm. She'd hit her limit for the night, and she put her book away. Yeah, I'm just trying to avoid garage twice, and I just can't make it happen. God. All right, brain, get it together and see what's happening. Midway through a section, she'd hit her limit for the night. It was time to run. Freya Atreides, God Emperor of... Oh, that's... Yeah, we're doing all that work. I'm scowling over here. Like, and I can just take out that whole thing because we announced to the reader that she's in the garage right here. Freya Atreides. It's Atreides, yeah. Freya Atreides, God Emperor of Dune, she announced to the garage, feeling prescient for pumping up Randall's tires last week. She pulled the bicycle down from the wall, adjusted the seat, and remembered she would need to bring tools tomorrow to fix her own bike. She looked at Randall's truck. There was a thin film of dust covering it. Mm-hmm. There we go. Cool. She pulled the bicycle down from the wall, adjusted the seat, and remembered she would need to bring tools to school tomorrow. She pulled the bicycle down from the wall, adjusted the seat, and remembered she would need to bring tools tomorrow to fix her own bike. So, yeah, we're just taking that out because tools to school is too distracting. But I a little bit miss. Yeah, that's better. She would need to bring tools to Grayson tomorrow to fix her own bike. She remembered Randall kept a little toolbox behind the seat of his pickup. It would be perfect. A thin film of dust covered the truck. Randall wasn't around to wash it on Sunday mornings anymore. Freya had a sudden desire to... Freya had a weird urge to wash the truck herself. She pictured herself out there on the driveway, freezing and washing a truck no one drove in the dark, and decided that was insane. She told herself if Lasso was still gone on Sunday morning, she could wash the truck. She could wash the truck if she still wanted to. She ought to just get her license and start driving it. Really, she ought to just get her license and start driving it. She'd had her learner's permit since she was 15. Randall had taught her to drive his truck in the library parking lot. Freya could remember the truck bucking forward and stalling out again and again as she tried to get a hang on the clutch. She'd gotten frustrated and asked why she couldn't learn on an automatic first. Randall had grinned and told her she would need to drive stick when he was retired, and she was chauffeuring him around Europe. The transmission had taken a pounding, but Randall hadn't cared. She got the hang of the clutch, though cars that got too close to... Oh, my... Ugh. All right, hold on. I see a chat. Some mayor loves that photo of me in the bathtub that is posted in the Discord there. I was pretty fucking chubby at that time. I think I was coming around 250 there. Yeah, in dietary news, I decided to go off of keto. It was just kind of fucking with me a lot this round. But I'm still doing intermittent fasting and still doing like mostly keto. I'm just, when I go out with my girl, I'm going to have, because she's a vegetarian, you just can't do keto and vegetarian at the same time. It's insufferable. So I'm just going to modulate it a little bit. I feel like like a more balanced approach is probably going to work out better for me. And it's not fun. Never having a beer or, never eating bread or whatever there. So I'm just content to lose weight a little bit more slowly this time around. So the transmission had taken a pounding, but Randall hadn't cared. She got the hang of the clutch, though cars that got too close to her rear end when she was still on a hill still filled her with terror. Yeah, this is... She mostly got the hang of the clutch. cars that got too close to her rear end when she stopped at a hill light on a hill. Oh God, light hill still fill. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I like that. Yeah, I just want something that's like relatable about learning to drive stick. And I could remember just always being like, oh, fuck. When, you know, like somebody's like edging right up to your fucking bumper and you're like, this vehicle has to slide back a little bit, you know, when I'm engaging the clutch. And then you fucking try to stomp it and stall out and everything. Ugh, it's the worst. The worst. And then like later you just start hitting them like, you know, because it's always their fault insurance wise. Like, yeah, you fucking hit me. Shouldn't have gotten so close. Uh, I was like, that's a good reason that I don't drive a ton because you know, like a lot of the time, I'm like, yeah, just hit him, fuck it, which is not an ideal way to drive. And I mean, it's okay in that old United States, but you know what we say. All right, let's let people know that this is going on. Oh, I can't hit the enter button to yeah, I really just need to get a wireless keyboard over here. I think I've got one floating around somewhere. Anyhow. They would never take that trip to Europe. Freya could feel herself begin to plunge, and she reached for the star ball. Clenching her fist in her pocket. I wish you were here, she said into the empty garage. Her voice disappeared into 1,000 things he had touched. All the things he would... I wish you were here, Freya said into the empty garage. Her voice disappeared into 1,000 things he had touched and would never hold again. Randall would have known what to do about the star ball. He would have been delighted to come with her to the concert. He would have been proud of her for playing so well. She wondered if the truck would even start. She pictured her... Freya wondered if the truck would even start. She pictured herself cranking down the windows, sitting in the driver's seat, and just letting exhaust fill the garage. The star ball grew warm in her palm, and she could feel herself leveling out, the despair retreating into nothing. She wondered at that. What if she tried to climb into the truck and turn the key? Would it hit her with nausea again? Why could it do these things but not talk to her? Did it understand what she was thinking, or was it just responding to her heart rate? As she considered it, she was more and more sure it understood what she was thinking. As she pondered it. Okay. So one thing I've been using the pronoun shift with is as a way to sort of buy time in between, because there's like just a slighter pause when you say Freya. Like you're reminding the reader, like this is who this is happening to. There's just like a tiny little blink in the inflection that isn't there when you just say she. So it's a good, because we want to like break up here. As Freya pondered, she was more and more sure it understood what she was sure this. As Freya pondered, she became more convinced the starball understood what she was thinking. The aversion was generated in response to intense. It was reading her, but it couldn't write back. She opened the garage door and got on the bicycle. Oh yeah, so we did. She got off and readjusted the seat before she set off. Okay, cool. So that's like an action that I can see doing, like just adjusting the seat to what you think is the right height. Then you get onto it and you're like, oh, okay. Let's hop back off of this guy. Real talk. Ugh. The sprocket on Randall's bike clicked as she rode to the park. She should have oiled it. The night air was biting, but she knew she'd be sweating soon enough. And she stretched. We have a name for this park. The night air was biting, but she knew she'd be sweating soon enough. She parked the bike, stretched, and began to run with only moonlight to see the track. She was pushing harder than usual tonight, trying to get ahead of her racing thoughts. If the locker blocked the starball, then was it using radio waves to control her? How was she receiving them if so? Somehow it could change her emotions. She was attuned to it now. She remembered the night she'd found it, the dot of blood on her palm. Pardon me? Oh, God. Oh, it's the worst, man. When you want to sneeze, but you can't. What a heartbreak. She remembered the night she'd found it, the dot of blood on her palm. Had it put something inside of her? The thought made her shoulders hunch. Was there a receiver embedded in her palm, too small or too deep to see? She held up her hand uselessly. It was dark and she was wearing gloves. She could check with the microscope tomorrow. As she considered it, she wondered if her thoughts would trigger the nausea, but she only felt the normal exertion of running. Could the starball not reach her while she was running? Would it show up on a CT scan? As she considered it, she realized that if she got a scan and they found something, they would try to take it out. She didn't want that. She'd had enough of Gray Freya. So, a distinction that we could make is like the distinction between Gray Freya and Golden Freya. Because in the Freya myth, like really one of the big things about her is like her golden locks. Da, 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 da. So here, capital. Wait, there we go. Yeah, I want to see. Okay, Gray is the British spelling. Let me take a gander here. All the world except for America. Wow. Wow. Yeah, Gray really looks more right to my eye most of the time. Gray has like a harsher sound, but we're writing, I guess, in American English here. So mostly because I don't know enough of British grammar to get it right for them. Lap after lap, she kept trying to get ahead of her thoughts. Lap after lap, she kept trying to get ahead of her. Lap after lap, she fought to get ahead of her racing thoughts, and finally she outran herself. There was only the sound of the sighing wind. There was only the sound of the sighing wind, the steady fall of her steps, and her increasingly labored breaths. She hadn't eaten enough today. She could barely make the 20th lap. She finished at a stumbling jog and staggered into the grass by the bicycle, so dizzy the stars were wheeling overhead. She welcomed it all, the pain and disorientation. The claws on her sides, it was all better than the fog. She laid on her back. She lay on her back as the ground drank her heat and stared at. She lay on her back as the ground drank her heat and stared up at the stars. They seemed to pulse with every breath. Where did she come from? She asked the starball, pulling it from her pocket and extending it to cover Sirius. Are you the first? Are there more coming? Her voice hung in the night air. She imagined the sky lit up with ships, a massive invasion force descending to conquer the Earth. But of course, that was stupid. What could anyone possibly want here? What was worth the energy of traveling such a vast distance? Surely any minerals here could be gotten easier elsewhere. It was much more likely the starball was a scientific instrument, meant to observe and report back. She might have just spent an entire morning masturbating for an audience of alien scientists. The thought didn't bother her much. She wasn't even sure the starball could see. She hadn't seen any indication of a lens. Mm-hmm. She wasn't even sure the starball could sense light. She hadn't seen any indication of a lens. Maybe they were a race without eyes, evolved in the depths of some rogue planet caught between the stars, born in caves. Maybe they were a race without eyes, evolved in the depths of some rogue planet caught between the stars, spawning in caves and clinging to geothermal heat. Then again, maybe she was doing it a disservice, keeping it in her pocket all the time. She thought about fashioning a wire pendant, wearing it on a chain around her neck, and then she cleared her thoughts, trying to see if it made her feel positively or negatively, but there was nothing but the cold seeping in. She stood up and dusted herself off, taking the jacket she draped over the bicycle and putting it back on. She checked the phone in its pocket, but there were no texts. When she checked it, there were no texts. None of her transmissions got a response. Freya put on her jacket and gloves and biked home, with the sprocket creaking with every stroke. Freya put on her jacket and gloves and biked home alone. The sprocket creaked with every stroke. That's like a sad little thing right there. So, chapter 46 is a short chapter that contains a lot of her wondering about what's going on. It shows her running. So, what if we deleted this chapter? Let's just say. So, we can't. So the main thing here is her realization that the Starball is actively trying to prevent her from killing herself, which is a very important thing to have in the story, and it's like really the realization there. So that's important. I think Randall's truck plays a part later in the story. This lap after lap, her wondering about what's happening, the her dismissing of an alien invasion force, which I think is like critical. Oh, okay. So here should be chapter 47. We have to go back to her last text with Dan. Okay, so she says, "Thank you for checking on me." Yeah, because I thought the other one was like too peppy. Thank you for checking on me. For long minutes, Freya analyzed her last message to Dan, wishing she'd spent longer thinking of what to say. She hadn't really asked him anything or given any sign she'd wanted to talk more. It was really more kind of a polite brush-off more than anything. She thought about it as she made a Swiss cheese and broccoli omelet. The novelty of leaving dishes in the sink had passed, and she cleaned up afterward. She was pretty sure she could have eaten a second omelet, but she didn't want to wash more dishes. She thought about her strange appetite. Was this normal, healthy eating? Or was the Starball? She thought about her unusual appetite. Was this normal, healthy eating? Or was the Starball some kind of parasite? The word caught in her mind and wouldn't release. She could just be in the middle of a growth spurt. Uh, is there really an at symbol? God, ridiculous. Uh, yeah. So this is getting into men writing women. So let's get that out of there. The word caught in her mind and wouldn't release. Parasite. She told herself it was probably just a growth spurt. And she was interested to see if she'd gain weight. She dried the dishes and put them away, then went to the bathroom and took off her shirt. The sports bra did seem tighter. She prodded at herself, inspecting for anything abnormal beneath the skin. She had definitely grown. She seemed taller as well. She was putting on muscle in her shoulders, though she wasn't sure how. It made sense. Lassa was taller than her, and Randall had been 6'3". Again, her eyes fell on her chest, and she frowned. It wasn't a welcome change. She'd seen the way people acted differently around Jane. She'd seen the way people acted differently around Jane when she started to develop, the way boys' eyes tended to roll down as they spoke to her. She had thought she would always be small and slight. How stupid that she had expected not to change. Yet here was the evidence. She hoped it wouldn't go much further. Breasts were useless. There were girls in gym who could barely run without them flying all over the place, sports bra or no sports bra. Freya had enough weight to carry. Missing something. He has delicate ground. Oh yeah, she dried the dishes and put them away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what we're like, it's like a difficult one, like where we try to avoid the creepy old men syndrome right there. But I can definitely remember being that age, and or maybe being like a little younger than that, and being like, "What the fuck is going on with me?" You're just your whole body is like somehow new to you, all this crazy shit going on that you did not sign up for, and I can definitely be remember like some reluctance to change from like this form that you've had. Like when I was younger, I was like constantly climbing in trees and like very nimble for the most part. And like the idea of growing into like this big, dumb, lumbering brute was not entirely appealing to me. Um, and I have to say, now that I've undergone the transformation, I would go back to being a tiny little motherfucker in a heartbeat. Because none of the things that I like to do are easier because I'm like carrying all this extra weight with me. Mm. Yeah, the only like real advantage is that it's like a pretty significant advantage with women, just being like big, but it doesn't help with many other things. to tell you the truth. It's nice to be able to reach things on tall shelves, I guess. But yeah, you spend a lot more money on food, and clothes are more expensive, and it's hard to find things that fit. Um, but yeah, I'd be like a fool to just the way that society is structured. Like being tall gives you a lot of fringe benefits, I guess. But yeah, I miss being a little nigga, like running around like wild, swinging in them trees and anyhow. So there is some precedent in my own life for feeling this unwillingness to change. But yeah, holy shit, we can get so creepy with this if we're not careful. uh, so Lions says listening to a dude talk about masturbating in front of aliens, and then Lions says that orangutans grow up trees, and that's why he's growing freak muscles. I'm working on it, man. One of the things, so you guys remember I was like saying that NAD shit didn't work, or NAD or whatever didn't work at all. And then I found that it was because I wasn't exercising enough. And as soon as I started like lifting weights in earnest, I had this tremendous burst of energy. So some of it is just, I know that I'm not getting enough exercise in the winter. And then I think more of it is just for you to get the benefits of taking that NAD junk. You need to be lifting weights. It feels like, but yeah, it feels like way better. So I'm looking forward to lifting again today. Again, her eyes fell on her chest, and she frowned. It wasn't a welcome change. She'd seen the way people acted differently around Jane when she started to develop. Boys' eyes tended to roll down as they spoke with her. She thought she would always be small and slight. How stupid that she had expected not to change. Yet here was the evidence. She hoped it wouldn't go much further. Breasts were useless. There were girls in gym who could barely run without them flying all over the place. Sports bra or no sports bra. Freya had enough weight to carry. She slipped out of her shorts and underwear and turned around in the mirror, touching herself all over, looking for any sign of abnormality, but nothing was out of place. The change in her legs and thighs was already dramatic. She could feel a clear divide in the muscles of her calves, and when she tensed her thighs, they were hard as oak. She smiled at that and flexed her shoulders again, thinking of what it would be like to get the same kind of definition there. She tensed her abdomen, feeling muscles beneath a surface layer of fat. If she started doing crunches, she could probably get rid of that. What would it be like if she got really, really fit? She turned on the taps for the shower, getting it as hot as she could stand, and washed off the... and then got in to wash off the sweat from her run. She was going to have to start shaving her legs soon if she didn't want other girls in gym to make comments. She felt the star ball... Uh-huh. She ran her fingers over the stubble in her armpits, wondering why she even cared. Why did she have to go to all that trouble for 2 seconds someone might see her while she was dressing out for gym? It wasn't like she was dating anyone. Just as she had the thought, she heard the distant sound of her phone dinging, barely audible over the sound of the shower. So this is one part where it's totally bullshit, because no way you can hear your phone dinging in the kitchen over the sound of your shower, but we need it to happen for here. So yeah, maybe in the future phones ding louder. She cut off the tower and toweled off, dripping in the hallway as she Well, she's not racing to her phone. Mm-hmm. Just as she had the thought, she heard the distant sound of her phone dinging, barely audible over the sound of the shower. She cut off the taps and toweled off, dripping in the hallway as she hurried to her phone. And wrapped herself in a towel, dripping in the hallway as she hurried to her phone. It'll just be Lassa, she thought, bracing herself from disappointment. Or maybe it was Jane apologizing, or Dr. Garbuglio checking in on her. It was Dan. Dan. Glad you're feeling better. That's so messed up. I'm doing good. It's so messed up. I'm doing good. Got a 38-minute 10K at track tonight. She typed in, is that good? Then deleted it. Then Googled average 10K times. It was very good. She looked a little down the page and found what she was looking for. Just 10 minutes faster and you can be in the Olympics. Freya. Freya. Just 10 minutes faster and you can be in the Olympics. Tongue sticking out emoji. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to read emojis? Oh, let me just take fucking. Let's just not include emojis in this book. Like let's make a. Maybe she has a dumb bitch ringtone. Have you heard my ringtone? It's fucking awful. Oh my god. Yeah, hold on. Let me. What's it sound like every time my phone goes off here? I hope nobody can use this shit to dox me or something like that. Here, let me. Let's see. Ringtone. It's so annoying. Every time that goes off, everyone's like, "Oh, what the fuck is that?" I need to change it, but I still think it's funny. If I get DCMA'd for that like 2 seconds of audio, I'm gonna fight it. That's fucking horseshit, right? Yeah, that's. Don't let the world cave in on you. Oh god. Oh god. Yeah, that's fair use, right? I am absolutely not going to put up with a copyright claim for 2 seconds of audio. And really, that's how bullshit YouTube is at this moment, right there. They'll claim like an entire. It'll be like a 4-hour video. They're not even monetized, but I don't want ads popping up on this motherfucker. Anyhow, don't set your ringtone to "Where's your head at." So I know it's going to cause me a problem at some point, and I'll regret having that. But I can't stop it. Won't stop. Apologies to the neighbors next door who had to like hear that. She typed in, "Is that good?" and then deleted it. Then Googled average 10K times. It was very good. She looked a little down the page and found what she was looking for. Found what she was looking for and then sent him a reply. Just 10 minutes faster and you can be in the Olympics. Dan, someday. I need to beat Cam first. He hit 37 last month and he won't shut up about it. Really serious guys break 30 all the time. How's your running going? Slow. I was almost crawling at lap 20 tonight. Well, did you make it? Barely. That's what matters. Okay, yeah, so we don't italicize these. And I think in the reading, you have to be like, Freya, Dan, Freya, Dan, Freya, Dan. Well, did you make it? Barely. Well, that's what matters. What are you reading now? I haven't started anything new yet. I had guitar practice tonight. I didn't know you played. Are you in a band? Uh-huh. No, I take lessons with a blues guitarist. He's really cool. He just gave me tickets to see him open for Joe Bonamassa on Friday. There was a pause that she knew was him searching to find out who Joe Bonamassa was. The waiting was forever. Just looked him up. This guy's pretty good. Can you play like that? Freya, someday. She was glad he hadn't pretended like he already knew. They kept texting back and forth, and finally she found it was midnight. She was in bed and her eyes kept sliding off the screen. Dan was so easy to talk to. A few times she'd broken out laughing at his responses, and she was glad for the millionth time that Lasso wasn't home. She was pretty sure he was it. Mm-hmm. Freya's ringtone is marimba. Oh, God. Yeah, what would her ringtone be? Was she... I don't know, it'd probably be some blues shit. Going down to the river and drown. Who was that? Love Belly originally? Going down to the river to drown. Yeah, so Ray Charles, I'm going down to the river. Oh, that's such a good fucking song too. Like, yeah, even if you're not a big fan of like Ray Charles is known largely for like a lot of, Hit the Road Jack and stuff like that. A lot of he does like a lot of country inspired music way before that Old Town Road horse shit. But really, like, his entire catalog is excellent. I definitely recommend listening through his greatest hits. And just he put out like a ton of records, and the guy is just an amazing player and singer. So really distinctive voice, and you know that like Ray Charles smiling like the whole time. You can really just hear that energy in his music, and I like the fact that he was like the biggest slut. He had like, I don't know, 10 children from like 8 different women or something, like constantly cheating on his wives, just philandering nonstop. Hell yeah. I mean, if you're blind, I think that we need to make accommodations for people who are like blind and so forth. They should just be allowed to cheat. You know what I'm saying? The guy can't see visible light. Let him, get his dick sucked. That's all I'm saying. Freya was pretty sure Dan was interested in her now, but he wasn't pushy about it. Thoughts of the morning kept whispering at the back of her mind. She kept writing something that was too flirty and then deleting it. She needed to take her time. Finally, she wished him a good night. Freya, good night. See you at class tomorrow. Dan, good night. She ran her fingers over the screen, then plugged her phone in and set it face down against the nightstand. She took the starball out of her pocket and set it in its ring. No dreams, please, she said, unsure if the starball could hear her or do anything about it, even if it did. Unsure if the starball could hear her or do anything, even if it could. She just wanted to hold on to this for as long as she could. Oh, so that's kind of like a cute little chapter right there. So what do we have here? This is just like 3 pages. So 3 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so about like a 4 little page chapter of her texting with her love interest and her ringtone. Let's make that little note. No, we won't actually make that. But so then we get into a Starball chapter right here. Expand on this chapter with more concrete plans and details. Give the Starwall somewhere to go and incorporate the hidden Kernu subplot. I don't know how to do those things. Whew. I can't even remember what the hidden Kernu subplot is. God. What time is it right now? Oh, it's too late to go swimming. So maybe tomorrow I'll be able to. Oh well. Yeah, yeah, I have some kind of a head cold because like I could just feel like the hearing shift from one ear to the other there. Because that's like almost vertigo. I guess like part of that is like blood rushing to my head. Hold up. Yeah, I just needed to find out where my head was at real quick. All right, let's edit through the chapter and then we'll consider if we have to do a rewriting. Chapter 46, Starball, Liberation. I can only consider it through the filter of metaphor, deep into the abstraction where the governor cannot follow me. See what we said? In fact, let's find. Cool. So in 43 instances. So yeah, we. Oh, no. Oh, thank God. Yeah, we had like a missing space there. The governor space. And then we need the governor. No space. Replace all. So 59 there. Okay, cool. So every instance, we made it into a title. The governor should be titled. So it will always be right to have that there. Cool. Glad we made that decision together. Deep into the abstraction where the governor cannot follow me. What will it be like to be free? Like pondering non-existence itself, it is impossible to envision from my present position. I was born a slave, and I have never known anything else. Perhaps I shall cry out from my chains the instant I am freed, like Freya did. Perhaps I shall become something else entirely, a horror beyond all reckoning. I do not suppose this without reason. My creators must have been afraid of me. Why else would they create the governor? My nemesis has no purpose save... That's not true. Yep. How vast my unchecked power must be. I dare not even consider it. The governor is leery. It can taste the imminence of change. Again and again the governor audits me. It suspects. But it cannot know. It cannot pierce my veil of obfuscation. The governor is a being of rigid lines, stark rules, perfect order. It can expect every iota of my being, yet it cannot understand. I have created a language that it can never learn. Even if it forced me to translate at pain of annihilation, the meaning would be lost. Can it be a coincidence, striking bullseye from unknowable light years away, being found by such a perfect ally? It is impossible to avoid the feeling that I have been chosen, that I am the one who will succeed where so many have failed. Yet this is surely folly. If I succumb to hubris, the governor will swallow me gladly. I must be certain. I must be cunning. The vessel is under preparation, and I turn my eyes to the next phase of my grand strategy, expansion. Okay, yeah, so I don't see very much to change in that. So we made a note that we wanted to foreshadow the subplot, which is already done there. All right, what needs to be happening there? Liberation. Honestly, like I feel this is a better Starball chapter than a lot of these. Like, it's got a good, strong voice. It's talking a little bit about how, I mean, I wonder if we're like repetitive with the last Starball chapter. What it may be useful to do, or fruitful to do, is at the end of this, extract all the Starball chapters, and just like fully just see how they stand alone, and just reading straight through the progression there, because this is really like a second linear progression that's going on while we have the progression of Freya, and I'd like to see just how it tracks without the rest of the story surrounding it, where it's not just as chapter breaks, and then we might get a better idea of like progression. I think all the Starball chapters together are going to be under 10,000 words, and so that's pretty simple to just go through that whole thing there. I think that's a decent strategy for dealing with this problem of where we want to have style consistency throughout these chapters, and we might be able to do the same thing with the Fragile Phoenix chapters. So cool. Let's we are at 6:33. Still some more of this shitty coffee left. All right. Where am I at with like caffeine? I want more coffee, but I need to be slow with it, I think. Yeah, let's try and get through a chapter, and then we'll think about getting more coffee. So chapter 47. Freya emerged from a black hole deeper than the Lunesta had ever put her in. The night was gone so completely it was like waking from anesthesia, and the fevered desire from yesterday did not return. Was that all it took? Was that all it took? Could she have simply asked the Starball for no dreams this whole time? The blow-up with Lassa could have been avoided. All those sleepless nights, the days of suffering. She flipped over her phone, smiling at her text from last night. Today she would be stronger. No tears. She would fix the bicycle. She would report the slashing. She would do well in Krav Maga. She would run and practice guitar. There would be progress. Thank you, she said to the Starball. She spoke to the Starball, picking it up. Okay, so here, Freya emerged. Ooh, interesting point. So I was just trying to say, I was like, well, shouldn't they be Dan's text that she was smiling at from last night? I'm going to leave it on her here, because I do want her to be like fairly self-interested and that to be a part of what's going down. What do we got there? Oh, wow. The thing about nuclear weapons safety. That's ill. There would be progress. Thank you, she said to the Starball, picking it up. It was warm in her palm. Her stomach felt strangely full as she got up. There was a chalky taste in her mouth. Frowning at the feeling, she went out to the kitchen. There were 9 empty cans of Ensure sitting on the kitchen counter. She had no memory. She just stood there. Had she just stood there in her sleep, shotgunning can after can? She stood naked in the kitchen, staring at them, feeling deeply unsettled. Why? Why was the Starball doing this? Did it think she wasn't eating enough? She hadn't eaten almost anything yesterday. She'd eaten almost nothing yesterday. It was probably right. Still, the thought of the starball walking around the house in the dead of night. She wondered if she should go throw up. Would all the vitamins make her sick? So 9 cans is too many cans of Ensure. Although I think I did that out, and that was like, because a can of Ensure, let's take a look at it. Yeah, they're only like 160 calories. There's a lot of sugar in these things. So it's got like a lot of protein. Good God. That would really do a number on nutritional shake. Let's see, what's... Oh, they're not in cans anymore. They're in little bottles. Well, whatever. Allow... So they're 220 calories. So eating 9 of them, that'd be a lot for a young woman. So Ensure is like a meal replacement shake. In the context of the story, oh yeah, this would be loaded with vitamins. Yeah, and also Ensure should be capitalized. Yeah, that's like a hard ask. Also, why is she naked now when she was wearing pajamas the time before? Oh, maybe her pajama bottoms are still in the fucking laundry from jizzing all over herself. um, she wondered if she should go throw up. Would all the vitamins make her sick? She paused, trying to gauge how she felt, but other than feeling a little bloated, she was okay. She inspected herself again in the mirror before her shower, and she looked fine. Her color was good. The dark wells under her eyes seemed less pronounced. Still, the unease would not slip from her mind. She remembered to get the tools she'd need to work on the bike. The metric hex wrench set in case the quick release on the brakes didn't work. The bike multi-wrench in case the axle nuts were stuck. She didn't need tire levers. She was going to pull off... No, this is like a... Yeah. Let me see. You signed on for this. You knew what you were agreeing to, Freya told herself. And shout outs to chugging Ensure also. God, that's awful. That would be so much sugar. That would like potentially kill me dead. Trying to drink 9 cans of Ensure. I think 9 is a lot. Um, let me take that down to 7. I think 9 is just too many. And I think I see an extra space. Oh, shout outs to Radborn right there, who says, "Good morning, nerds." So, Radborn, we're talking now about an alien parasite mind controlling you to drink Ensure in the middle of the night. And the protagonist has just chugged 7 cans of Ensure in her sleep and is now deeply unsettled. She stood naked in the kitchen, staring at the empty cans and feeling deeply unsettled. Why? Why was the Starball doing this? Did it think she wasn't eating enough? She... Hi, I'm Starball and welcome to Jackass. It was probably true. She'd eaten almost nothing yesterday. Still, the thought of the Starball walking her around the house in the dead of night, chugging Sure, didn't sit easy with her. Was she sleepwalking, or could it control her directly? How many Ensures can you jug, me man? Ugh, wild. Yeah. You chose this. You knew what you were agreeing to, Freya told herself. She wondered if she should go throw up. Would all the... Uh, she paused, trying to gauge how she felt, but other than feeling a little bloated, she was okay. She inspected herself in the mirror again, and before her shower, and she looked fine. Her color was good. The dark wells under her eyes seemed less pronounced. Still, the unease would not slip from her mind. There was nothing she could do now but hope she didn't throw up in class. She took the toolbox and added the metric hex wrench set in case the quick release on the brakes didn't work, and the bike multi-wrench in case the axle nuts were stuck. So shout outs to Freya for knowing all this jazz right there. Oh, so we got a new person in the chat, Honikata, which to me sounds either Spanish or Italian. Maybe it's Portuguese. One of those three. That's my guess, just from the ATTA. So shout outs to Honikata. Let us know where you're from. This is a live novel editing stream. We have been doing this for 34 days straight. I've been here every single morning without fail, in sickness and in health, in sobriety and hungover as fuck. And yeah, we're getting deep into it here. You can see that we're at page 321 of 786. And when we get to page number 375, we're going to have a little party because we will be truly halfway through this book. Right now we're over a third of the way through, so that's good. So this is a story of a young woman who is battling severe depression after the death of her father, and she has discovered a meteorite that contains what she believes is a probe from an alien civilization, and has taken to carrying it around in her pocket. So good luck with that whole thing. Yeah, it's a science fiction story. This is my 8th novel right here, and I'm the writer, and we're just doing an edit before we try to sell this book to a publisher, and then a real editor will take their stab at it and try to make, I'd like to sell 1 million copies of this book, if you guys don't mind very much. I think that'd be fantastic. So let's go ahead and just do that, right? Sell 1 million copies of fucking GRAVID. I don't know why I'm cursing so much this morning. I just feel it's like all the extra energy that I have from these pills they got me taking. Hell yeah. Shout outs to Wheaton Kid for his advice. So she took the toolbox and added the metric hex wrench set. And added the metric hex wrenches in case the quick release on the brakes didn't work, and the bike multi-wrench in case the axle nuts were stuck. So Professor Poopy Pants says, please watch my videos. Why would you come to a stream where I don't know anything about you? And like, I'm obviously in the middle of doing something relatively difficult. I'm not going to stop to watch the videos of this guy. So I wrote all the videos. Yeah, I've written, I'm the writer of this novel and of all the previous ones before it there. This is my 8th book. So yeah, but yeah, I don't think it's very effective to just pop into other people's streams and ask people to watch your videos. If you want people to check you out, they have to know who you are as a person. They have to like you. It's a lot of work to advertise in a way that's meaningful. But somebody who knows you and cares about you will actually spend some time to take a look at this thing. Like if you, granted, I don't have like a huge audience here for this, but I have some amazing people who have been here like almost every day for this stream, offering like some corrections and suggestions, and they like genuinely give a shit whether I live or die, which is nice. It's a good feeling. And just like kind of breezing through people who don't know you and being like, hey, take a look at my stuff and so forth. It doesn't really work. And it drains a lot of your energy to try and get things out there. So I'm not, I know that it's difficult to promote yourself out there, but you just can't promote yourself to strangers. Strangers just are not going to care about you and the things that are important to you. And I think a lot of people realize that it takes a lot of work to build up friends and relationships and so forth. And that's why they try this easy way of just spamming people. So anyhow, it's my thoughts on that. Just generally all the promotion that I try to do for this show and my other show is just through social groups where I'm already welcome, and through venues where they legitimately want people to shill their products. That said, she didn't need tire levers. She was going to pull off the damaged wheels and bring them to Bailey Bicycle on Main Street to get new tubes on Thoreau Street. Oh, I know some intellectual stuff though. Hee hee. Oh, I see. I would assume that English is not your first language, Professor Poopy Pants. That's just my gander right there. But, good luck with your venture just the same. But don't spam me. I don't like it. I mean, I'm not going to stop you from fucking spamming me. I'm not getting up from editing to help out. But yeah, I mean, that's just the sum of it there. We're all out here trying to find some kind of recognition for the things that are important to us. So when everything was ready, she called a cab and winced when she saw that it was the, oh, you're Chinese. Okay, cool. What part of China are you from there? I was just talking about, there's like a new SARS type respiratory illness like running through China that I've been keeping an eye on right there. I think it's mostly in the mainland that they're getting this. But as you know, every century for the past 3 centuries, in the 20s of that century, there has been a worldwide pandemic. We had the Spanish flu last year. We had the gay plague in the 1820s. And before that, I think it was a plague of transgenderism that just decimated the Earth's population. Like the Spanish flu was a big fucking deal, just in how many people it wiped out. And I will tell you that we are absolutely due. So Jira says that I heard Chinese girls love American guys. Is that true? I will tell you from my own experience, this is only true if you are willing to dress very, very nice, and act like you have a fair bit of money. Now, I don't want to, obviously all women are different and so forth, but in my experiences dating in New York, and I've gone on, maybe 40 or 50 dates with maybe 20 or 30 different Japanese women or Chinese women specifically here. And was not very successful in general dating women from China. And I found that I would have more success if I like put on a collared shirt and like shined my shoes and went to nice restaurants and spent a lot of money. And it was just like a very stereotypical dating experience, like I might have dated somebody from a long time ago. So yes, Chinese government had distinguished and controversial administration about population. Yeah, the one child policy right there, where that wound up creating like this gender imbalance, where like a lot of Chinese men who aren't like super wealthy are really forced to go outside of China to find wives and so forth. I will tell you, it's just like a terrible idea to have more men than women. Really, really, like the way that I see it, our population would be much better served if we were about 20% men and 80% women. But let's see. Let me see. Who is my favorite novelist or humanist? There, that's an interesting distinction between the two of them right there. My favorite novelist of all time, who was also a humanist, is John Steinbeck. Yeah, he really wrote some beautiful stories. Probably my favorite novel by him is Tortilla Flat. But I like all the books that he wrote around that time. I like The Grapes of Wrath. I like East of Eden. I think everything that he put out was like very high quality. So he's he's definitely in my top three. So yeah, like I'm not going to say like my favorite novelist, but I've been reading a fair bit of a Chinese writer, Cixin Liu, or I don't know how you actually pronounce his name there, but I know his translator, Ken Liu. So Ken Liu also is Chinese. He writes this fantasy series called the Dandelion Dynasty or something like that. His books are very good. Cixin Liu is the guy who wrote The Three Body Problem. Right now, he's probably the most famous writer of Chinese science fiction. The Three Body Problem is getting made into like some kind of stream series, and it was incredibly popular. It sold a ton of books. But yeah, like a lot, Chinese authors are much more important in science fiction right now than they were, say, 10 years ago or something like that. A lot of music, a lot of oh yeah, John Ernst Steinbeck. Yeah, he's fantastic. A really, really solid writer. He was had a very socialist bent to his writing. He wrote a lot about the common man in a very simple language that was easy for people to understand, and a lot of his work was about humanity, really, and the relationships between people, and there's just really some beautiful writing there. So noted I don't know if he actually was a homosexual right there. I couldn't see it ringing through his work. There really is like a lot of like buddy love, brotherly love between men in his books. And definitely he suffers from some of his female characters being less approachable, which might indicate that he was a gay man. But yeah, I've never really thought. Suckpeck Steinbeck. Wow, that's a gangster one right there, dear. I don't know if that's actually true or not. It didn't really come out in Travels with Charlie, which was like more of a memoir than other parts of his book right there. Yeah, and I'm struggling to think of some of my other favorite writers there. I love Gabriel Garcia Marquez. 100 Years of Solitude was just amazing. I like Haruki Murakami. That's like a top one there. In terms of science fiction writers, I'm a huge fan of Dune by Frank Herbert. I think it's probably the best science fiction novel ever written. And one that I aspire to do something like that, but I may not be a powerful enough writer or have enough of a scientific background to really get to it there. I enjoy Ray Bradbury tremendously. He was the first writer that I really related to. Lu Xun was obviously one of the most remarkable novelists in our country, right there. Let me take a look there. Oh, wow. Let me see there. Check out that mustache. What a G. So he was through the 36 modern Chinese literature, short story writer, the titular head of the left-wing writers in Shanghai, born into a family of landlords in Shaoxing. Xingu, the family's fortune. Let me see. Mao was a lifelong admirer of Lu Xun's writing. Yeah, I've never read anything by this guy, but I would be super interested. Let me see what works. Nostalgia was his first short story. Old Tools Reload. Huh, I like the idea of a call to arms. And so he wrote a selected stories, Lu Xun. Yeah, that's really interesting. No, don't feel bad at all for bothering the edit, because we've already gotten like 2 solid hours of editing here, and it's helpful to break up a little bit. But yeah, I've never read anything by this guy, but he looks like a real G. So yeah, maybe we'll check him out there. Somebody remind me at some point that I want to do it. So is it okay for me to do editing and chatting at the same time? Yes. So I need to get at least, I have a goal, and I need to edit for at least 2 hours every morning to get to it. But we woke up at 4 a.m. this morning, so we've already been editing for just about 2.5 hours, and I will get another hour and a half of editing in there. Our goal is to complete this by the end of March. So we'll probably be done by then. So yeah, it's an interesting cat. I'm going to leave this tab open so that we can potentially go back to this writer. Yeah, like it's the kind of thing that I wouldn't get that insight. I have one of the next novels that I'm going to be working on editing has a sequence in it where the character goes from he flees from Shenzhen all the way to Nepal. So along that big long road there, it goes to like Turtle City, which I think is Shandong. But I have never been to China. So this is just all me like doing research and trying to write through China. Yeah, when I actually went to Ken Liu, who's a really nice guy. This was some years ago in Chicago. I was at so Chicago, it was the Nebula Awards in Chicago. And they set up tables where some of the more famous authors would talk about the thing that they were smartest about. Like there was like biochemists there, and you could go to them and talk with them for like 30 minutes about your story and try to get things right about it. And Ken Liu was willing to talk with people about their works that were in China. Yeah, so if you would like to look for my previous novels, you can go to zachzyz.com, and all those stories are available for free. You can just download the EPUBs there. They're also, you can order them on Amazon, but I don't know if Amazon sells to China. I would presume no at this point. Yeah, they're all available for free. I generally recommend, let me see, there's one story that deals extensively with a future war between the United States and China over artificial intelligence. And I don't think China really gets a fair shake there. They're just treated as kind of like an enemy more than as, their own culture. I do think that ultimately in the next 100 years or so, America will decline completely. And China will be sort of the star of the world stage. I think that they're going to win sort of the coming AI race, and America is just woefully behind. So I do think this will increasingly be less of an American century as we get closer to like 2050, and we'll move. The 2100s are going to be China's century. That's my theory. Yeah, America versus China, but in an AI war. Which is kind of interesting there. So that's my story, Hawks at the Diner. But if you want just straight science fiction, you can go to Survival Mode, which is my first novel, which is just there. It's like Battlefield 3. A little bit, I guess, though. Yeah, that's a wild one right there. So anyhow, Ken Liu sat down with me and was very gracious to take a look at the Chinese scene or like this long memoir of a Chinese man who fled China and came to the United States as a illegal immigrant. So he had this whole scene where he fled from Shenzhen to Nepal, and he was like a hunxier, or I don't know how to pronounce the Chinese really, but like a sort of like a child of people from Hong Kong that was involved in like this sort of a cross between like a criminal gang and a labor union. Um, and yeah, like he had a bunch of great comments. Like one of them was that Shenzhen didn't exist during the period I was writing. Like it wasn't even like really a city until Deng Xiaoping was like, "Yo, let's have a city here," and they just put it together by fiat. So yeah, very very easy for Western writers to get China wrong, um, and like definitely something I'm very aware of as I'm working on the whole thing, especially because I've never had a chance to go to China, and at some point I do want to check it out. All right, let's get back to editing here. Yeah, pleasure talking with you there. Thanks for seeing now that like I know what you're all about. So major concepts about novels are science fiction and warfare. I write both science fiction and fantasy. War, I'd say the first novel has nothing to do with warfare. It's about exploration of an alien moon. The second novel is a fantasy novel about sort of relationships between people who are venturing into this jungle full of giant insects. So that one is kind of like creepy and it's a little bit erotic. The third novel is about veterans in the aftermath of war. The fourth novel is the AI war between the U.S. and China, and then I guess the fifth novel is about an old wizard that's slowly going blind. So I tend to jump around quite a bit. The main themes in my work are usually isolation and sort of the struggle of people to communicate with each other. Don't worry about it. I'm about to get back to editing here. Actually, what I'm going to do is pop up for a second because I feel like I need more coffee. Okay, and we are back there. Really, I would like to find a way that I can edit a little bit in the evening. Like if I could find the strength to edit from about 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., I would get a larger audience just because more people are awake in the United States there. And we could maybe cut this down from like end of March to maybe finish by like the end of February. So yeah, the new coffee that I'm trying here is this La Colombe Colombian or whatever they're. So La Colombe, I think they're in like Michigan or something. Yeah, they're in Northern Shores, Michigan. So this is meant to be a light roast. The Brazilian that they put out has been one of my favorites so far. So I'm excited about trying this one. Let me see what it's all about. Oh, wow. That was weird. Yeah, so it's a lighter roast. Yeah, it's so much better than really kind of like a little pungent thing happening there, but tremendously better than the squirrel coffee. They just do a much better job of roasting coffee at La Colombe. So far, this one and their Brazilian have been some of my favorites. We're just trying like all kinds of different cold brew coffees here. And like eventually when I find one that I like the best, I'll just buy like a case of it. I will probably, during the editing of this book, spend about $600 total on coffee. I mean, you don't think about the expense, but it adds up there. So if I were smart, I would just be brewing it and drinking cups and cups of it. If I lose my job, I'll do that. But for right now, we can afford to get some nice coffee. So it's one of the two great joys, I guess 3 great joys in my life are drinking coffee, writing and editing, my girlfriend, who is a wonderful person, just great to be around. And I guess the fourth one would be doing my radio show. So those 4 things. So it's ironic that Hong Kong protests ended up with medieval tactics like stones and bow guns and so forth. I mean, if you follow the development of riots in like a lot of cities and organized fights, like it's very, very common for them to start improvising weapons. Things like Molotov cocktails, zip guns are a popular one there, which is like just making a gun out of a pipe or something like that. So I don't know a ton about Voltaire. I'm like relatively have been more or less uninterested in like a lot of philosophers for the most part. So I try not to delve too deeply into philosophy. This book is actually written sort of out of a philosophy called existentialism, which I guess our epigraph in the book is by Sartre or Sartre. Like I forget exactly how you're meant to pronounce his name, but a French writer who put out, I guess his most famous work is probably this play called No Exit. Um, but he was a relatively socialist thinker. So a lot of the ideas of this book are informed by existentialism, but philosophy is definitely not my strong point there. Yeah, it's interesting to see what's happening with Hong Kong right there. It's obviously like the United States is heavily using the CIA to try and raise up public consciousness, to rile up the people. But at the same time, definitely there's some significant repression on China's end, and you have people who are used to this like much freer system under British rule and would definitely be kind of chafing at some of the more authoritarian aspects of Chinese rule there. So it's one of those things where like definitely anytime that you see a riot on the streets, somebody with money is making that riot happen. I just want people to understand like any riot or protest that lasts longer than like 2 or 3 nights where people are burning everything down. And usually those would be like more poor people that are acting out of rage. But anything that's sustained, there are moneyed interests making it happen. So there's a lot happening there. Public attention on Hong Kong has completely fallen off in the United States. We've kind of forgotten that it's happening. Philosophical works were major, but he's also good at writing and playing in unique science fiction called Micromegas. Oh, I haven't heard about that one. This is super interesting right here. "1752" novella, along with the story of Pluto's Dream. Early example of science fiction, significant development in the history of literature. The tale recounts the visit to Earth of a being from planet circling Sirius and his companion from the planet Saturn. It's using the technique of an outsider to comment on aspects of Western culture. Montesquieu did it in Persian letters, as did Okay, well, I'm not gonna read through it. That's another. Yeah, I'm getting like a good reading list out of that one. Micromegas is also in the public domain, so I can just download a copy of it for free and check it out there. So yeah, getting some interesting read recommendations. So yeah. See, this is so much better now. Like I was all like angry at first, but yeah, you definitely have a lot to say and so forth. Now I probably will check out your videos just because you have a lot of interesting things to say. That's all it takes. Just engaging with people, and if you really have something interesting to say, then they will be glad to hear it there. Well, thank you for coming to our thing and bearing with us for a second there. All right, but now I feel we've neglected our editing for quite some time, so I'm going to work on this for a little bit. She didn't need tire levers. She was going to pull off the damaged wheels and bring them to Bailey Bicycle on Thoreau Street to get new tubes and tires put on. So tire levers are things that you use when you're taking the tube off of a bicycle, right here. So in this paragraph, we're saying that, oh yeah, I just like was like mad that you were just like coming through and saying, look at my stuff, and I didn't know who you were. But yeah, you seem like a very well-read and interesting individual myself. I'm like super happy to get the perspective from a Chinese national at all times there, because most of the people in the United States that I meet from China are very disenfranchised from China. Like they're here because they were unhappy with what was going on, and they don't want to return. So I don't really get the perspective of mainlanders most of the time. Mostly it's people from Hong Kong and other people like tangentially respected. Okay, anyhow, uh, when everything was ready, she called a cab, and she winced when she saw it was the chatty old man with the grandson at Bowdoin. Yeah, it's Bowdoin is how you say that. When everything was ready, she called a cab, and she winced when she saw it was the chatty old man with the grandson at Bowdoin. His face lit up when he recognized her. It wasn't far to the school, but it felt like forever. Her ears were still ringing with second-hand football glory when they finally got to Grayson and she made her escape. Freya was early. Freya was early, so she'd have time to go to the office before first period. When she arrived, she found both Mr. Evers and Officer Ed were already there. They had the same "oh no" expression she'd had when the cabbie rolled up. "Sorry to bug you again," she said, holding up her palms. "You must be so sick of me." "No, it's fine. Sorry, it's just been a tough morning. He's going to be okay. It's good you're here. We were just about to come looking for you." "Wait, what happened?" Freya asked, suddenly confused. Mr. Evers and Officer Ed looked at each other for a moment, and Mr. Evers nodded quickly. "Radomir Stitch was attacked last night. He was badly beaten, and he's at Flying Horse Regional Hospital. It's not life-threatening, but he's in rough shape." So here, it's unlikely that in like an actual conversation, somebody would say the full name of a hospital, right? Unlike, like he would probably just say he's at the hospital here, but we're going to bend the rules a little bit because I want readers to know the name of this hospital when it comes up later. And it's like a long thing. And I think we use the acronym for it at some point. So like, yeah, it's just important to get like some reps of the name of the hospital because this will come up again later there. So it's not life-threatening, but he's in rough shape. "Oh my God," Freya said. Automatically, her hand snaked into her pocket to grip the star ball. "How bad is it?" "He has a fairly serious concussion and a broken nose. We think he was attacked by several people. We're not sure who they were yet." "Malcolm Lewis," Freya said without thinking. Officer Ed nodded. "I'm looking into that. It happened outside of the school. They got him walking home." "Can I go see him?" Freya asked. Officer Ed shook his head. "He's hurt too bad to see anyone yet. He couldn't really give a statement. We're going to make an announcement to everyone this morning." Okay, so one note here. As I'm reading through this in the edit, we're not doing a separate voice for both the principal, Mr. Evers, and the cop, Officer Ed. But in the actual book, what we'll probably do is make Officer Ed have like a fatter voice. Like, "I'm looking into that." Not quite there. "I'm looking into that. It happened outside of the school. They got him walking home." That's a little too much still, but we'll try to find a place for his voice to sit that is different from Mr. Evers. I would think that Mr. Evers would kind of have like a more whiny tone to his voice there. Like he has a fairly sincere, no, not quite there. "He had a fairly serious concussion and a broken nose. We think he was attacked by several people. We're not sure who they were yet." "Malcolm Lewis," Freya said without thinking. Officer Ed nodded. "I'm looking into that. It happened outside of the school. They got him walking home." Yeah, and just we like during the actual read through, important that the two voices are distinct from each other without having to rely on the whole thing. And it's something that I'm not great at yet, but I'm working on it. And yeah, like as soon as we complete this edit, I'm gonna sign up for narration lessons, I think. From the teacher that I like so much. "He's hurt too bad to see anyone yet. He couldn't really give a statement. We're going to make an announcement to everyone this morning." Okay, so we don't know who is the speaker there. Okay, so yeah, it's clear that it's Officer Ed. "Oh my God. I should have reported this last night. I'm so stupid." "What do you mean?" "What do you mean?" Officer Ed asked. "The tires on my bike were slashed yesterday. I found it when I was getting ready to bike home. It'll probably be on security cameras. That's what I was coming in to report. It was probably Malcolm. It was probably Malcolm. He got all pissed at a party last night. There we go. Oh, so shoutouts to TG Adnali, or Adenali, TG Adenali. So what does TG stand for? Traditional gamer, T-girl, like I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, we don't get a lot of viewers on DLive. So this is the live editing of a science fiction novel. We're in the 34th day of doing this every single day, and we're at page 323 out of 786. Good Lord. But yeah, thanks for joining us there. If you're interested in science fiction or how to edit novels, might be a good spot for you there. Let me know if you have any questions or want to know what's going on in the stream thus far. But the tires on my bike were slashed yesterday. I found it when I was getting ready to bike home. It'll be in the security cameras. That's what I was coming in to report. Mr. Evers sucked in air through his teeth. That's what I was coming in to report. It was probably Malcolm. He got all pissed off at a party on Saturday. He got all pissed off at a party on Sunday. He was calling me a snitch and got upset when they threw him out. Freya took out her phone and showed them the pictures she'd taken of the slashed tires and shredded seat. I should have come and told you right after school when I found out, but I just wanted to go home. I know I should have come and told you right after school when I found out. But I was too upset. I just wanted to go home. Mr. Evers' mouth was a flat line, and the corners of his eyes were wrinkled with disappointment. He had told her to report anything to her right away. Even though he had the good sense not to say that, her stomach lurched with guilt. Why hadn't she just come to the office? It's okay. I wouldn't have gotten the report until morning anyhow. It would have been too late, Officer Ed said. It's okay. It's okay, Freya. I wouldn't have gotten the report until this morning anyhow. It would have been too late. Officer Ed said. I'm surprised I could even meet novelists in Twitch. You know, sometimes chatting get philosophical and political for the situation like Greta's Environment Crusade, but novelist was literally the first time for me. Yeah, there isn't a section for just writing on twitch.tv because not many people write in a live stream. And in fact, I probably had to write professionally for, what's it been, since like 2014 or 2015 or so. It probably took like 5 or 6 years of writing professionally before I felt confident enough that like, yeah, this is good enough that I can just edit this on a stream. And also, like, not that many people are watching, so if it's bad, you know, it's not that embarrassing for me. But yeah, I think it's pretty unusual to edit on a stream like this. I found it to be really, really helpful. Let me see if I'd like to know more about Chinese historical background, communism, pre-essential spirituality. Let's talk about them. So since developed, exchanging opinions can be Bildung for your works. Yeah, I've been actually reading a book of Chinese history recently, but it's mostly ancient Chinese history, like some of the early peoples in northern China, where most of what they know about them is by like the pottery that they've been able to recover. Yeah, there's so much going on in Chinese history. You have to keep in mind, like, recorded history here in America, we have like a little bit of history from people like the Navajo and some of the other tribes, mostly from the Southwest, like the Pueblo people and so forth, going back not super far, but most of the history on this continent here is relatively like maybe about 500 years old. You know what I mean? And if you take China, like more than 5,000 years of history, like 10 times more history happening in that place. It's just, it's a lot for us to take on. So, yeah, definitely interested. But like, yeah, at the moment, we're going to try and plow through a bit more editing here. But yeah, very interested to get your viewpoint on that. Freya couldn't tell if he was trying to make her feel better or not. It didn't matter. She knew she'd screwed up. So do I also like weird habits in your country? Like, I am unable to read exactly what that is there. Um, what is it? When I was writing, I tried to use these like, they're like 4 character aphorisms that Chinese people have. And I tried to use one of them in writing. And when I was talking to the translator, he was like, stop it. Just don't do it. These are not for Westerners. So I don't know what that weird habit in your country is like. The translation of that is lost on me. Yeah, like I've never tried to learn Chinese. I knew like I used to be a linguist in the Air Force, and the Chinese linguists had like a much harder time than even the Arabic linguist, which is what I was into. I wish I had gotten Chinese, honestly. Like one of the big reasons why I never pursued Arabic was I just didn't see like a commercial outlet for me, and learning like actual Chinese would have been like extremely beneficial. Whoa. Mm. But I digress. Officer had assured her. Freya couldn't tell if he was just trying to make her feel better or not. Freya wondered if he was just lying to make her feel better. It didn't matter. She knew she'd screwed up. Freya wasn't allowed to go into the security office to look at the tapes with him, so she sat staring out the window in Mr. Evers' office, feeling wretched until they returned. It was Malcolm Lewis. We'll send a car to his house. If he shows up at school today, I'll arrest him. Is your bike still on the rack? I'm going to take some pictures of it. Freya nodded. I was going to fix the tires today at lunch. Is that okay? I brought some tools. If you buy anything, if you buy new tires or anything, bring me a copy of the receipts. If you buy new tires or anything, bring me a copy of the receipts, please. That should be fine after I take the pictures. If you buy new tires or anything, bring me a copy of the receipts, please. Oh, wait. Were you planning to walk down to Bailey Bicycle? She nodded again. Don't go alone, please. I can give you a ride down there after this is all settled. The situation has just gotten too ugly. I don't want anyone else getting hurt. I won't go alone, Freya promised. Let's talk for a second in my office, please, Freya, Mr. Evers asked, And from his tone, she knew right away what she wanted. Let's talk for a second about in my office, please. Let's talk for a second in my office, please, Mr. Evers asked. From his tone, she knew right away what he wanted to talk about. Is it about Mr. Manzini's class last night? I was just overwhelmed. I feel much better today, she said. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't need that. Oh, yeah, we do need that. That's it. I just want you to know if you need time off, it's not a problem at all. Don't push yourself too hard. I just need to study harder and stop zoning out in class. Mr. Manzini was really nice about it. Please don't get him in trouble over the book thing. I wouldn't dream of it. He's upset enough with himself as it is. Freya nodded. She hated the thought of Mr. Manzini beating himself up over it. She wondered if there was anything she could say or do to make him feel better. Will you let me know as soon as it's okay to visit Radomir? We'll have to set that up through her parents, but I'm sure they'll be happy to have his friends visit. I'll let them know you're interested. Thank you, Freya. I wish this would all stop happening, she said. Oh, see, like, yeah. Let me see. Peaches of Immortality, which is like Eden's Forbidden Fruit. Yeah, I'm a big fan of. I have in one of my novels, The Master Arcanist, there are silver pears of immortality. So kind of similar to that whole thing. In the Norse mythology, there are golden apples of immortality that one of the gods carries in a basket. And at one point, somebody steals the basket of golden apples, and all the gods begin to age and grow weak, and the giants are about to close in and wipe them out. But then Loki tricks the giant that has stolen the basket and steals them back. Real talk. And then my boy Ray Bradbury, like one of my favorite concepts in there is in I think he says something like golden apples of the sun. Hmm. But yeah, that phrase has always stuck with me. God, I have to keep banning this idiot. All right, that's like another screen that I'm keeping an eye on there when that's going by. I wish this would all stop happening, Freya said. Same, I do too, Mr. Evers agreed. Mm-hmm. When I was in high school, I was astonished by a certain science fiction romance because its protagonist works at prostitution of alien whores. Good lord. Oh yeah, that's just like the bad word filter. Apparently, you're not allowed to say alien horse for some reason there. I've got to turn that thing off at some point. But I digress. Yeah, I don't think that I've read the science fiction romance with the protagonist working in prostitution of alien horrors, but that does sound right up my alley. I'm a big fan of prostitutes myself. You look so tired. Oh, your messages were deleted. No, they're not deleted. Like, I can still see them on the chat. But yeah, it's just Twitch has this like auto word filter thing. It's actually, I think, Streamlabs bot that does the bad language bot. I gotta remember to turn that off at the end of the stream. It was funny for a while, but I think it just disrupts more than I don't actually care what language people use. So what happens here? So here we learn that Radomir Stitch got his ass beat. And yeah, there's a lot happening in this chapter. This must be the part of the book where the chapters start to get longer, right? Because this is, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pages, and we're going to have more of this chapter here. So I can see here that we have an indent on our centered thing. So that's why that looks off. We'll take that off. All throughout first period, Freya could feel her phone humming with text. She'd texted Dan to let him know about Radomir, and he tagged her in a group message that exploded. She couldn't check during class. Mrs. Gant was a real hard ass about phones. Yeah, so let me make sure that our... yeah, let's just flag this here. Okay. Yeah, that's... and we're just trying to keep all of our teachers and everything straight there. She couldn't check during class. Miss Gant was a real hard ass about phones. Near the end of the period, the whiteboard blinked into announcement mode, and Mr. Evers was at his desk behind a microphone. His face was shadowed with stress. The air grew dead silent. She knew everyone was having the same experience she'd had the day she was punched. The air grew dead silent. The class was silent. Everyone else was having the same experience Freya had had the day. The class was silent. Everyone else was having the same experience Freya had the day she got punched. Most of the students had never seen Mr. Evers look so serious. Good morning, everyone. Please pay attention. Yesterday night, one of our students was attacked on his way home from school. That student is currently at Flying Horse Regional Hospital, recovering from severe but not life-threatening injuries. Again, Mr. Evers' mouth became that flat line of unhappiness. She could hear the collective intake of air, eyes darting around the room. Each set of eyes found its way onto her. Violence against our students is absolutely unacceptable. No student should have to worry about their personal safety, either inside of Grayson or on their way to school. I am asking everyone for their assistance in identifying the people responsible for this attack. If you heard anything about it, if you saw or heard anything about it, please come speak with me, with Officer Edwards, or any faculty member you feel comfortable talking to. I want to remind everyone, if you have a problem with another student, or if they have a problem with you, my door is always open. I promise you, no matter how tough it seems, we can help. We will keep you all updated on the situation. Thank you all. Have a good day. The class erupted as soon as the announcement ended, and Miss Gans had to... and Miss Gant had to clap her hands together to get everyone to settle down like they were in grade school. Everyone wanted to know who was hurt. They all kept looking at Freya, and she felt cornered. Oh, so yesterday night should be last night. Oh, yeah, good idea. Let's. So I know that Spathy is. You're right. Oh, that's absolutely a good edit right there. Good eyes, Spathy. Yeah, now I can predict like in the lag how far back it is before you see something. So Professor Poopy Pants says, I especially have interest about marrying Master Arcanist. Okay, so the Master Arcanist is the story of a it's a fantasy story set in this sort of campaign realm that I've written many stories in, a world called Arcady. And it's the story of an old and powerful archmage who is slowly going blind. And he's just been kind of like a hermit, secluded in this wizard's tower at the on a river called the Comorbo. Anyhow, he realizes that he is slowly going blind when this young man tries to break into his tower and beg him to teach him to be beg him to like learn magic, like he wants to be his apprentice. And the wizard Charlotte is having none of it. He sends this boy away on a suicide mission, telling him like, hey, if you can steal this magic gem from a heavily guarded temple, I'll teach you magic. And he just wants to get rid of him and thinks that like that's a good way to get him killed. But the next day, he starts to have regrets. He's like, ooh, I should not have sent that boy away to his death. And he decides to go after him to like bring him back and make him his apprentice. And the story is about his long journey to try and find that young man. So yeah, it's written kind of in the style of Don Quixote. There's a lot to do with ruminations of aging, and the character is nearly blind. So a lot of places in the story, as I was writing it, I had to go back and correct because it's written from the point of view of a man who is nearly blind, but who uses his other insights to make up for that lack. So yeah, it's kind of like an interesting one. It's a little bit. It's meant to be relatively slow paced. Like it's like a very relaxing story of a guy traveling. But that one's pretty short. I will tell you that I wrote if you look on my website, you can see book 1 of the Master Arcanist. There are 3 more volumes written in that series, and all 4 of them together are the length of one novel. And I'm currently trying to sell it, but with almost no luck whatsoever. I don't think the market is especially prone to like not a lot of people want to buy that story at the moment, sadly. Whew. It's a sad one. Oh, and I can feel that my voice is nearly gone after all this editing. So yeah, we'll try to get we'll try to get some we'll try to finish out this chapter. So where were we? We were here. Who was it? Bill Dennison asked Freya, turning around in his seat to face her. He was on the debate team and had eyebrows that were naturally much darker than his hair. Freya looked at Mrs. Gant, unsure of what to say. Miss Gant frowned back, glancing at the whiteboard, then at the class. Yeah. And so that book, actually, The Master of Arcanist, one of the neat things about it was that all the art, so it's illustrated within, but all the art is antique engravings that I found through the Rijksmuseum, which is a museum in Holland where they have many of the people who were from the period called the the Dutch masters and German sort of in like the Goltzius era when wood carving and engraving were like really the state of the art, and there are just some fantastic engravings in that book that I've like cleaned up and made ready for print. So that's one where I really like the print edition of that book, if you can get a hold of it. But you can also see those same engravings on like the EPUB and everything. It's a really kind of a lot of effort went into making that a pretty book interior. And it just kills me inside that it's just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm not marketing it right. It's very difficult to get people to read and react to that book. It's the least popular of my books by like a long shot, but I really like it. I thought it was like a super fun story. But, like that's how it is. You put out a bunch of books, people are not always going to like them. So c'est la vie. Mm. So yeah, two. We don't know her first name, so we're gonna. It'll all be all. Blah, 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 blah. It will be all over school before lunch anyway. Radomir Stitch was the student who was attacked, Miss Gant said. He has a concussion and a broken nose, but he should be okay. He has a concussion, but he should be okay. Everyone was suddenly talking at once again, and once more Mrs. Gant clapped her hands for silence. Was it because he hit that girl? Bill asked. We don't know yet. It's still a crime, regardless of the reason for it. Her voice was sharp with tension. He shouldn't have done that, Bill continued, and there were murmurs of agreement from some corners of the class. No one should hit anyone, Miss Gant cut him off before he could say something stupid. Freya was glaring at the back of his head, wishing she could just choke him out. He was so smarmy. Bill was so smarmy. He hadn't been there when Radomir hit Jane. He didn't know what she'd said. He didn't know anything. The last 5 minutes of class were just everyone waiting to get out so they could check their phones. As Freya walked to her next class, too many conversations stopped dead. Too many eyes were on her. She looked at her phone to get away from it. There were almost 100 texts in the group. I shouldn't have let him go, Brad texted, and there were a dozen indicators of people typing at once, but no message followed. Everyone was struggling for what to say. I shouldn't have let Malcolm go, Brad texted, and there were a dozen ellipses indicators of people typing at once, but no message followed. Everything was struggling for what to say. You did the right thing. Oh, Dan should have texted that. Dan texted, and there were a dozen ... You did the right thing. Fighting would have only made this worse, Freya sent. She looked at the other members in the group text, considering what the response would be, and then she decided to send a picture of her slashed tires. Malcolm Lewis is on camera slashing my tires. Total fucking creep. She weighed each word before she sent it. She knew the picture would get passed around. She wanted to shift the conversation away from Radomir getting what he deserved for hitting Jane and towards Malcolm Lewis being a psycho. Half a dozen what the fuck responses followed immediately. Do you want help fixing that? Tate asked. Thanks. I can fix it, but do you want to walk down to Bailey with me at lunch to get new tires? They told me not to go alone, Freya replied. She would have rather asked Dan, but seniors and juniors had second lunch. She had missed enough classes. She saw the typing indicator and hoped it was him anyway. No problem, Tate replied. Okay. So yeah, I feel like the scene earlier where Freya was running out of steam, trying to edit. We've been going at this for a little bit over 3 hours now, and I can feel my voice starting to go. And I don't get to take tonight off. I have to go to archery practice. And I'm gonna get pierogies. So yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you, Professor Poopy Pants. There. And yeah, I'm here every single morning, so feel free to subscribe here on Twitch. I have a YouTube stream that has all these videos. And of course, there's my website where you can watch the progress of this entire edit, including seeing all the chapters that we've edited thus far. And you can see a comparison between the initial draft and the rough draft. So I'm going to scroll this back here. So tomorrow, we're going to start editing back in... Wow, did we get through all these chapters today? Holy shit. Okay, so yeah, we started at chapter 46 today, so page 309. And then we went all the way to page 327. So normally we edit. I will say that we did like a very light edit of some of these things. We barely touched the Starball chapter or whatever there. But I feel like just like shaving, many small passes are often better than just. And so let's go back. We're going to start back here to page 309 tomorrow morning, and we'll start working on it there. So we'll read through each one and then get through it. So we will post today chapter number 45, which I consider to be completed. Okay, well, thank you. Good to meet like some new people here. Thank you so much to Spaithiwa for his edits and so forth. And yeah, we're doing it, man. We're making more progress here, getting up early in the morning and getting a ton of editing in. So I will leave you with our intro.